Welcome back to the Top Gear channel and welcome to the most aerodynamic Audi ever made. For lots of reasons I'm about to tell you, but mostly because it's spent a lot of time in here where you're not normally allowed to be. This is Audi's wind tunnel. But don't be fooled into thinking that aerodynamics only matters now because EVs are obsessed with range. Because actually, the wind has been shaping cars for a lot longer than some people realise.
90 years ago, Audi's previous identity, Auto Union, was obsessed with what it delicately called Stromlinien Rennwagens, streamlined race cars. This was decades before motorsport had truly figured out that harnessing downforce was key to quick lap times and had nothing to do with making the car more efficient. No, but as far back as the 1930s, some car designers were realising that if a car made a small, smooth hole in the air, it would go faster.
Which is where we get stunning works of art like this. A 1937 Auto Union Type C Stromlinie. Basically, a pre-war Formula One car with a stunning, super low drag body, shrink wraps over the top of it. Imagine taking a modern day Red Bull Formula One car and building it for a land speed record, and you're not too far off. Pretty revolutionary for its day. Driver sits right in the nose, and it's actually mid-engined. But as you might be able to tell from the 16 exhaust pipes, there's a monster under here. A 6-litre supercharged V16 engine putting out 560 horsepower.
That was hypercar power back in the 1930s, but less than an R8 V10 today. And yet the Type C reached speeds of over 248 miles an hour on the track it was specifically designed for, the Autobahn-based Avis circuit near Berlin. Purpose-built streamliners from Mercedes and Auto Union cracked 275 miles an hour during record attempts on the early Autobahns before the races and the record attempts were stopped by the Second World War.
Back in the present, the new A6 Avant e-tron has a drag coefficient of 0.24. I thought you'd like to see this one because, well, Audi is traditionally the home of the posh estate car, isn't it? And also, while there's loads of electric sedans or saloons to choose from, there's really not that many of these estate cars. There's just the BMW i5 Touring and the Porsche Taycan Sport Turismo, which is kind of small.
But it's the saloon, or actually Sportback version of the new A6 that's record-breakingly aero efficient. The slipperiest Audi ever made, in fact, with a drag factor of 0.21. So here's what 42 years of progress looks like.
Because here is what the future looked like in 1982. This is the Audi 100. I know it doesn't look like much, does it? Just a very boxy German saloon car that was styled only with a ruler. But if you're actually paying attention, you start to spot the attention to detail touches that made this thing massively ahead of its time. Things like the angle of what's called the glass house, the flush glazing, even these aero mirrors. I mean, if you compare this to an equivalent BMW 5 Series that was on sale competing for the same buyers at the same time, it still had its windscreen wipers poking up out of the bonnet, spoiling the airflow. Whereas Audi were already tucking them away under here and making this the most aerodynamic production car in the world.
Audi marketed the 100's sharp-suited aerodynamics hard because it was coming from nowhere against the long-established might of BMW and Mercedes. Sweating the aerodynamic small stuff was supposed to showcase that Audi took its Vorsprung durch Technik motto seriously. So, did obsessing over fuel economy and reducing wind noise have a heroic effect on sales?
No. but that actually wasn't the fault of the looks. You see, the 100 got caught up in an unintentional acceleration scandal in America caused by the design of the pedals in the automatic version. Apparently they were closer together than American drivers were used to, and you know how it goes. They were getting mixed up between the throttle and the brake, mashing the wrong one in a panic, and the result was Audi sales tanked by 83% in the United States. And meanwhile, everyone else copied all the ideas and caught up. So this car's quietly revolutionary bodywork probably doesn't get the credit that it deserves.
But these days, obviously, aero is very in vogue, as car makers desperately squeeze as much range as possible from battery-powered cars. The new A6 Avant claims over 720 kilometers, or 447 miles. The A6 Saloon, or Sportback, claims 750 kilometers, which is 466 miles. So let's get in close and see how it does it.
Starting at the front, where, yeah, Audi still can't let go of having a great big grille at the front, can they? Except it's not really a grille anymore, is it? It's all just completely blanked off. There's just this slither down here that's actually open, and even that is shuttered off most of the time. It only opens when the car's ECU says, "Oof, I'm getting a bit hot. Could you give me some cooling, please?" Split headlights and running lights becoming a very common motif now, as is this what they call the air curtain, smoothing airflow around the sides of the car. Over massive wheels, these are the fiddly ones. If you're really into the whole aero thing, you can have a more slippery streamline design, and the car will help you out there as well because it's got air suspension, active ride, all that gubbins, so it will squat down at speed, create a smaller hole in the air. Speaking of which, yes, these are back. Virtual door mirrors, which now fold away to try and make them, well, a bit less vulnerable when you're parked. Now, if you've driven any car that's got cameras for door mirrors, you might have found some of the flaws, particularly with Audi's application, which is that they mount them to the mount where the door mirror goes. So you're sat in there, you go to check the mirrors because that's where they've always lived, and then you look at the camera and it confuses your caveman brain, then you have to look back at the screen, and in that time you've travelled 50 feet. So Audi's recognised this and they have tried to solve it. They've moved the screens round, they're now on the doors, they're supposed to be more in your eye line. We'll see if that's worked when we drive it. But there is a reason that you might want these, and you don't have to have them, they are an option, don't get them. But if you do want them, I've just had a chat with Dr. Moni Islam, the boss of Audi's aerodynamics division, the king of the room that we're standing in, and he said that these alone are so effective at cutting drag. These give you 7 kilometers of extra range per charge on their own. Just these might be the difference between getting home and having to charge in a service station.
There's a lot more that you can't see underneath. The floor is fully sealed up because of course there's no gearbox to cool, and there's these bumps, these ramps at the front to steer airflow around the turbulent wheels with a bespoke shape for the Saloon and the Avant. It's all very trick for a boring family estate car.
And at the back, which is crucial for leaving the air as tidily as you found it, the roof spoiler, these curtain spoilers here, and the diffuser, which has actually been stalled on the A6 Avant to help the airflow from under the car meet more gracefully with the air coming over the top. That all works together to reduce the turbulence where I'm standing, really. Oh, a couple of other things to point out. We got a light up Audi logo before we got GTA 6, and you might have noticed that these tail lights have a slight mind of their own. There you go. They just seem to light up angrily and go from twinkling to red and furious. This is Audi's new anti-tailgating feature. The car senses when something is following it a little bit too closely, and the lights get brighter to tell you to back off so it doesn't get rear-ended. Kind of ironic, really, isn't it? Because Remind me which cars do the most tailgating?
It seems weird Audi left it so long to combine EVs and Avants, but maybe that was smart. It's had time to see that if you overdo aero design like the slug smooth Mercedes EQE and EQS, no one really buys it.
So since Audi thinks you're going to be able to do many miles sat right here, we should probably have a look inside. It screams. Basically, that's what it is. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screens to be getting on with. Let's start with these for the virtual door mirrors. Yes, they've moved them higher and further up into your eye line. I don't know, we'll have to wait until we drive it to see if that's solved the issues with using it. I'm still not convinced that in the dark or when it's raining, this gives you as reliable a view as a mirror, but we'll have to see later on. What we can test is, well, for a start, nice use of materials in here. Yes, good leather as always, but this kind of denim fabric that they've stretched across the dashboard, all over the doors, and here I really like. But this, come on Audi, you're better than this. We can do better now than glossy piano black, which looks 10 years old after 10 minutes. Look at the smears on that. But all this is really sharp and clear. You can adjust all of the displays how you like. This one, very, very snappy, which it needs to be because, as you can see, no physical controls up here. Aircon is in the screen, demisting is in the screen, heated seats, yeah, it's all in there. I'd like some physical buttons, even just a home button to get back to the start, but you kind of can't fault how quickly this does all react. And look at this, Top Gear YouTube channel, fantastic. Of course, the passenger won't worry about that because they'll be watching their own screen over here. Or will they? Will they just use this for 5 minutes and then go back to watching TikTok on their phone? I suspect they might, but they've got the option. Does it feel ultimately like a futuristic and modern premium car inside? Yes, absolutely it does, but it can still do the family wagon thing. Just had a quick sit in the back behind my driving position, and you can easily get an adult comfortably behind another 6-foot adult. Plenty of headroom, plenty of legroom, and the boot is still huge with space for the charging cable under the floor and lots of lashing points for all your kit. So the most important thing I was worried about was making this new electric estate and very aerodynamic shape going to compromise the kind of Audi Avant core values. No, it feels solid in here to me. Anyway, thanks for watching. They haven't kicked us out yet, so I wonder how aerodynamic the human face is.